may be able to agree to it. That's still going on. I'll be happy to talk to you after that.
Mr. President, has Maduro committed to you that he will allow all candidates to run in the next presidential election?
I've not spoken to Maduro. He's committed to we've laid down specific requirements for a democratic election. He's agreed to all of them. Thank you.
Mr. President,
The agreement includes more money to help Californians pay their rent and utility bills. The announcement of the deal indicates Newsom's proposal to send $400 payments to vehicle owners is dead. Newsom has initially made the proposal to provide targeted relief from high gas prices that his administration said could be sent to Californians more quickly than payments to tax filers. But he said to get lawmakers to sign on to the idea. But he failed to get lawmakers to sign on to the idea. Newsom and other lawmakers called their agreement a framework for the 2023 and 2022 budget, meaning they will continue to work out the details on other aspects of the spending plan over the coming weeks. The budget will be the state's biggest ever, and encompassing a record of $300 billion in spending. And citing the challenges of raising a family, particularly in the midst of the crisis and record inflation, Mitt Romney has introduced a plan to provide monthly payouts to working families with young children. Under this newly proposed Family Security Act 2.0, financial aid will be directly tied to number and ages of a family's children, with $350 for each young child per month and $250 for each school-aged child. The revised plan would also provide a $700 monthly sum to people expecting, and families will be eligible to apply for assistance 4 months before a child's due date. And according to the release from the Senator's office, the proposal will provide families with increased transparency on how much money to expect from the federal government and allowing them to receive the funds more quickly. The Family Security Act 2.0 will limit the amount of money given to families who do not meet a $10,000 earning threshold the year prior, reducing the financial aid proportionally to the amount earned, while curtailing the amount given to families that earn above the child tax credit income phase-out thresholds, which currently sit at around $200,000 for single filers. Folks, we have a ton of good news about the fourth stimulus check. And by the way, what do you think about President Biden and his work on this?
And causing prices to go up. And then once there were insolvencies and IPOs really fell off, we got into the dot-com bubble. Now, things that survived from this are actually companies that we're all really used to today, which is Amazon, Qualcomm, Microsoft is of note, and even Apple. So what's really important about taking a lesson from the dot-com bubble is everything fell in this type of scenario. There was a lot of influx saturating the market, and there was a lot of difficulties finding valuation within those securities because it was a disruptor. It's innovation to technology. So that's the takeaway from this, is things that survived the dot-com bubble had a clear product roadmap, had a clear set to innovation or to positive revenues, and that allowed them to be positive and come out of it.
All right, so
really well.
That seems like a pretty clear roadmap of where you should go with your cryptocurrency investing. But obviously, cryptocurrency is just a bit of a different industry. So when we're looking at coins to invest in, if you're an investor, what is the equivalent when it comes to cryptocurrency to which you were just saying?
Folks, Joe Biden may have to step up and take executive action if Congress cannot reach an agreement soon. The top lawmakers in the Senate have just announced their push to add billions of dollars in new spending. The extra funding will be allocated toward new and existing programs. A new Senate push to add billions of dollars in new spending next year is setting up for a battle later this year in Congress. It could result in a partial government shutdown, and it can't be resolved by September 30th. The top Democrat and Republican on the Senate appropriations reached a deal this Thursday to add $14 billion in emergency funding for defense and non-defense spending. A Senate aide told Fox it's a very routine thing. They do this almost every year. But that addition will put the Senate on a collision course with House Republicans, whose conservatives have been pushing for spending cuts even below the debt ceiling limit. Kevin McCarthy and Joe Biden are ready for this, and the Senate's higher number was already angering Republicans in the House. They've made clear that they don't want to see their promised cuts evaporate, and some GOP representatives have said it's a concern for those of us in the House who see the final debt ceiling agreement as spending too much. Even GOP Senator Susan Collins said later in a hearing that, "I want to point out that this bill is, as well as many others who have approved it, that this year's was below last year's funding, and enacting for the omnibus bill. But House Republicans, including those who support the final deal, made clear that they would not be entertaining or entering any compromise that could be seen as adding to the agreed-upon spending levels." Top conservatives met with House GOP leaders like Kevin McCarthy are meeting in the House, where they planned on how to cut spending even further below the current mark. That's after the House Appropriations Committee chairman committed to bringing spending levels below that line. But overall, if an agreement cannot be forged on a path forward by September, Congress risks leaving the government in a shutdown. And the Biden administration has already wiped out $40 billion in student loans for 804,000 borrowers. That's fixing more than 20 years of debt. The Department of Education has said that qualifying borrowers will be notified if their loans be discharged in the coming weeks. It comes weeks after the U.S. Supreme Court struck down Joe Biden's broader $400 billion student loan plan. The move will fix administrative efforts that are meant to be for borrowers, and payments do not count towards them qualifying for student loan. Even the Education Secretary said, for far too long, borrowers feel and felt through the crisis of a broken system that failed to keep accurate track of their progress toward forgiveness. Borrowers eligible for the forgiveness after 20 or 25 years of payments, depending on their plan. And the U.S. government offers multiple types of income-driven payment plans, under which borrowers can make monthly lump payments for their income. Details on the exact requirements were not included in the plan, but a common threshold for a state-level benefit is 80 hours a week a month, or a comparable amount of job training or volunteer work. Romney's staff said the legislation is subject to negotiation and is not finalized. And Governor Ned Lamont also announced that this weekend the state will deliver a one-time back-to-school crisis relief benefit of $257 per child to more than 15,000 low-income Connecticut households. Known as the Emergency Assistance Fund, the special benefit comes as $7 million federal grant through the American Rescue Plan. Eligible households include those with children who receive benefits through this temporary family assistance program during May 2022, or who received SNAP benefits and had no countable income during the same month. The majority of payments will be delivered to the recipients' electronic benefit transfer cards, and the state also mailed letters to recipients notifying them that they will be receiving this special one-time benefit. Governor Lamont explained that his administration is timing the release of these special benefits to coincide with the back-to-school shopping season and the start of Connecticut's sales-free tax week.
That lead to metal embrittlement. So the solution would be, short of what was already discussed about potentially recoding existing networks, but for existing infrastructure, the solution would be for natural gas, to have hydrogen, you would want either a different carbon steel or you would want it to be thicker or both.
So what would be the impact then in the cost of constructing, from conventional natural gas pipelines versus a pipeline that does all the things that you just described?
So
ever taken by Congress could cut the social cost of climate change by up to $1.9 trillion by 2050. The White House has said in an official statement that the legislation will reduce costs related to rising temperatures, minimize property damage from sea level rise and other disasters, and reduce health impacts. The analysis of the Office of Management and Budget, which administers the federal budget, is the first published estimate of avoided climate-related social costs resulting from legislation. The social cost of carbon is an estimate